How's it going, dudes? American football. Some say that it's the greatest sport on earth. Others say that it is unmatched by every other form of competition. But really, truly, we all know that all American football is God's gift to mankind. With a sport this popular in exactly one country, football pretty much commands the brain space of a good chunk of the American population for half of the calendar year. And for some of those fans, no other level of the sport can really compare to the spectacle of college football. College football has a much different appeal to the pros, mostly due to how the quality of teams across the FBS are all over the place and how the players on their team have a max number of eligible years before they are kicked out. But what happens when you get a fan so transfixed by the sport's appeal that they decide to do the unthinkable? Combine their jock hobby with their nerd hobby despite the ancient warnings. The result is a box that weighs 10 pounds. This is Envelopes of Cash, the Euro game based around American college football. Specifically the part where you recruit players to play for your team, specifically the part where you illegally pay players to play for your team. Lost already? Boy, you are in for a rough one today, buddy. Before the enactment of name, image, and likeness, paying college players to play for your school was very much against the rules, to the point where sanctions would be placed against offending schools to dissuade others from trying any funny business with their recruiting efforts. Did this stop anyone? Brother, they bought Eric Dickerson a gold Trans Am called the Trans A&M. The enforcement committee was practically wearing blindfolds. This period is where Envelopes of Cash takes place, tasking you with using every underhanded recruiting method at your disposal to bribe these high schoolers into carrying a ball in your colors. So what we're going to do today is put this bad boy through the ringer, rushing our way through our usual categories in order to answer one very important question. Will this game help your coach become a better recruiter? But before we go beast mode on this monster, I'd like to first thank Johnny Chin for managing to get me this title. Johnny runs the convention Game Market West, a tabletop game market where indie designers can showcase and sell their games to fans. Game Market West is a free-to-attend and fully indie production, allowing people to put out some really innovative and unique titles you wouldn't find anywhere else, like a card game where you spread propaganda, a Rob Zombie horror game, a strategic tabletop rendition of Tag, and a ton of other crazy titles. In fact, Envelopes of Cash here was one of the games featured at last year's Game Market West. So if you're looking to get the jump on some truly unique offerings, that's the place to be. Alongside those, you also have the chance to meet up with some of the special guests, like Tom Lehman, designer of Race for the Galaxy and Ray's Arcana. Again, this is all on free admission, and the next Game Market West is this March 23rd in the San Francisco Bay Area. So go check out the website below and see all the crazy happenings they'll have going on there. Thanks again for making this all happen, Johnny. Now let's get back to today's mission of bribing children by jumping into EOC's design. Envelopes of Cash has decided to finally drop all pretenses and has conveyed the college football recruiting landscape as the military operation it has always been. This is best showcased by the game's map, which carries the aura of a war room centerpiece, partially helped out by the fact that this thing is absolutely massive. It barely fits on my table. If this thing has any more components, I am screwed. Also adding to the war room feel are the player calendars and mats, which each player will use to track all of the weapons at their disposal. Confound it! The map itself divides the United States into color-coded regions that you can attempt to recruit players from, with the more defined regions getting one solid color and the states that are in between these regions getting a blend of the two. I would like to give this game a few style points here on the map, as it is quite possibly the first game I have ever seen include American Samoa as a region you can visit, which is pretty cool. Unfortunately, I now need to take all of those bonus points away, because my boys in the high-mid state of Indiana have been brutally lumped in with Illinois as a border group, an action that is unforgivable. I do not make the rules, I just enforce them. The titular envelopes each come in a variety of colors that represent different bribery tools, ranging from bling, to clothes, to whiskey, to a car that just happens to appear in an athlete's driveway, to even paying off the player's relatives' bills if you're feeling particularly benevolent with your cheating. Other available tokens include the player positions you will recruit, the star rating of each player, and your player tokens and recruiting bus, color-coded of course. But no college program is complete without their coach, and no two coaches are the same. So you'll need to figure out what kind of coach you are by choosing from one of the available coaching archetypes. Each coaching style comes with their own benefit based on how they like to do their job, like the media favorite, the star polisher, or my personal favorite, the preacher and advisor. The last little tidbit I want to harp on is that in the rulebook, there are little blurbs throughout the pages that tell you when a mechanic was inspired by another title, which I think is a really neat touch. Honestly, apart from the front of the rulebook being mysteriously printed in 144p like I'm watching Sunday Night Football in 2008, this bad boy has some pretty stellar looking components, even with the stuff they didn't need to make, like the starting chain for whoever's starting the turn first. But no adorable and hilarious finger chain is going to be enough to bribe my seal of approval, as in order to achieve the age-old saying of look good, play good, we'll need to take a look under the hood of this bad boy and make sure that it really does play good. Bust open the rulebook and the first thing you see in big bold letters is this game for real? I swear if I got hit with another Mirage, I'm gonna lose it. Before you can start the game, you'll need to set up the game board by assigning the recruits into their states like some kind of puzzle. Then the most recent victim of wage theft goes first. Looks like I'm up first once again, boy. Not so fast, Jerry. Guess who just lost $150 in unpaid overtime? No way! Construct your program by selecting your coach, color, bus, and whistle, and start your piece off in the home region that matches your color. I highly recommend making up your own team that you will be recruiting for, and since I picked orange, which is representing the South, you are now looking at the brand new head coach of the Montgomery High Tide. It is then up to each player to get their secret recruiting board, a list of players that their team needs the most in order to patch up some roster holes. For instance, my board is telling me that my defense special teams is the most atrocious thing to ever step on a field. So in order to get a score bonus, I need to go out there and get some of the best defenders on the market, like Joey Beauty and Michael Big Boy. If you think that these names are silly, I'd like to direct you to actual college football. Lastly, each player gets a group of cards featuring various bonuses that they can choose to use, with some cards going into the draft pool that may be taken from later. Did you get all that? Fantastic, now we can finally start the game! There are 12 months in the game to recruit in, and each month carries 4 phases for everyone to play through, starting out with drafting cards. Each turn will have a different starting player, indicated by this fat diamond chain, and that player will start off by dealing 2 cards to everyone else and 3 cards to themselves as a little bonus. In order, each player will then choose whether to add one of the cards to their calendar while sending the rest to the draft pool, or discard one of their cards to delay their move in hopes of a better card popping up in said pool. Important note that any card added to your calendar is not immediately active, only drafted, and will remain inactive until you pay for it with envelopes, which we'll get into later. After that, it's time to roll the dice and pay out wagers. Whoever holds the starting chain will roll all 6 of the dice, which will set up the next section. But before you can go there, you'll need to pay out all the wagers made on the Vegas section of the board. Gambling? Yes, the illegal recruiting board game also comes with an illegal gambling section because, I mean, you're already this far in, might as well bet on your team to earn a little on the side. We'll get into the intricacies of gambling soon. First, let's see how you get those titular envelopes so you can get your little gift-giving operation running. From the 6 dice that were rolled, each player is going to pick 2 that they are going to gain envelopes from. Multiple players can select the same die. And after that, they must choose one of 2 options. Option 1, you gain that die's number of envelopes in that die's color exactly that many months from now, counting the current month. Example, picking a green 5 in June means that you'll get 5 green envelopes in 5 months, so October. Option 2, you can gain half of that die's number rounded down in any of the other nearest 6 months. Again, with the green 5, you can take 2 envelopes in any month from June to November. You then move all the envelopes from this month on your calendar onto your player mat, and can finally start spending them on actions. And if that last rule managed to trip you up, buddy, you better lock in, because we're not getting any easier. There are 9 player actions that can be performed on your turn, which you can do in any order and as many times as you can afford, except for marketing and in turn. We've got 9 different actions to get through, so let's bulldoze our way through these as best we can. Action 1. Put 1 or more cards into play. Any cards already on your calendar can be activated by paying the required envelopes and sending it over to your player mat. Card effects cannot be used until they have been moved to the player mat, but you can move as many cards from the calendar to the mat as you want as long as you can pay the cost. Action 2. Trigger the effect of any card already in play. Once cards are on the player mat, their effects can be triggered if you meet their conditions. Certain cards can be triggered every turn if they carry that kind of effect, but others are either always active or only happen at the end, indicated by their symbol. Action 3. Trade envelopes of cash. If all you have are a bunch of fancy clothes, but the player you're recruiting won't budge without a bottle of Remy Martin Louis VIII whiskey, then you aren't out of luck. You can trade any 3 envelopes of any color and 1 booster buck to take one of your desired color envelopes. A terrible trade ratio, yes, but one that you're willing to pay if you're desperate, you leverageless fool. I didn't bring up booster bucks before, but these are the stacks of cash that your rich oil friends give you because they are fans of your school, and are mainly used for above-the-table activities. You get 7 of these to start the game, and they'll pop up sporadically from time to time. Action 4. Travel in your recruiting bus. In order to visit the recruits you want, you'll need to travel around the country in style, pulling up in front of their house in your dingy recruiting bus telling them to hop on in. You can move your recruiting bus to any connected dot or recruiting spot by paying 1 of any color envelope. Guess it's expensive these days, don't you know? For the first 9 months of the game, however, players will be granted free movement that they can use to get around, so be sure to take advantage of the free movement available before you start bleeding envelopes. Action 5. Pay a runner. Runners are your little underlings that will help get your bribes around the nation quickly. You can spend 1 booster buck to send envelopes to a recruit before your bus can get there, which will give you a head start when you try to recruit them. The envelopes you send through runners can only help get you closer to the recruiting total you need. A runner cannot recruit a player for you as they lack the crucial swag needed to close the deal. This means that if someone recruits a player that you sent envelopes to before you can get there, the envelopes you sent are lost. So be careful with how many minions you send out to do your bidding. Action 6. Sign a recruit. When your recruiting bus is on a recruit's location, you may sign him to your team by paying the required envelope shown on his token. Any previous runner envelopes that were sent count towards this total. You are able to recruit someone before, between, or after any of your bus's movements. But remember that once you recruit a player, all previous actions you made on that turn are locked in. This is because anytime you recruit a player, you must roll the value modifier die to see if they are any better or worse than you bargained for. Sort of like the gym bust system from College Football 25. This can really screw with the star ratings for some of these players. Being able to drop them as low as a 1-star water boy or raise them to the heights of the mythical 7-star prospect, the literal college GOAT. For the quarterback position, these people keep telling me that that would be Tim Tebow, so do with that what you will. Once that player has declared for your program, you can take that player and the state token for yourself, and send any envelopes from other players' runners directly into the trash. Side note, if you are visiting a border state with 2 players still there, you can just recruit them both and make the most out of your trip if you can afford it. Action 7. Run a marketing campaign. Yeah, ads. Let's go ads. This is all above the table stuff here. Paying regular money for regular commercials. The only action that wouldn't get you sanctioned in real life. To run one of these, look at the marketing chart and pay the amount of booster bucks needed to get the amount of stars you like. Simple as. Action 8. Gamble in Vegas. Oh yeah, now we're making some real money. You can spend 1 envelope of any color to place a bet on the specific number you think a specific die will roll next turn, and you can bet on as many numbers as you can afford. Get it wrong? Lose it all. If it hits though, you will gain 1 booster buck and 2 envelopes of that die's color to use this month. A pretty payout since this is one of the few ways to earn bucks outside of cards. And action 9, declare the end of your turn. Once you declare your turn over, it's over. You can take no more actions and you must discard all of your unused envelopes for this month. So if you have any left over at the end, you might as well go to Vegas and toss them on black to hope for a payout next turn. Once every player has taken their turn, the month will advance, with all players moving their whistle forward on the calendar to the next month and the player with the starting chain passing it on. Additionally, once you reach September, any unplayed cards still on a player's March calendar must be discarded, as they have now expired. This will continue to happen each month for any unplayed cards from 6 months prior, so make sure that you pay for those before they are gone forever. After the February turn is over, it is time for National Signing Day, where we get to see who among you had the best recruiting class. To determine your final score, take the star values of all your athletes, which you have been keeping track of all game, and add on any stars you get from your end of game cards, one last marketing campaign, and the bonus from if you manage to fill your secret recruiting board. Add on any regional and positional scoring bonuses for one last boost, and whichever player has the most stars has proved their recruiting excellence and gets a $1 million retention bonus from their program. And that is finally the end of the rulebook. The first rulebook. The first of 4. Yes, Envelopes of Cash comes with 4 different rule sets depending on how you want to play the game. The standard game, the newbie campaign, the family game, or the cutthroat campaign. I will not be going in depth with each of these, as otherwise this is going to run way long, but I will give you the gist of what each one offers. The newbie campaign, designed for those who have, quote, never played a game harder than Monopoly or Risk. Where does Oy vey fall on that scale? The newbie campaign is legitimately something straight out of the scenarios from all those war games I covered, breaking the game into 2 smaller 6-month segments to get players familiar with all the mechanics before they tackle the full game, with one scenario focused on only recruiting with no cards, and the other focused on only cards and no recruiting. It is actually a really cool way to lead people into the title if they liked the theme but have never tried this style of game before, and does a great job explaining each mechanic as they come up. The family rulebook keeps the full game intact but alters the mechanics to make them easier to understand for a more casual audience. Some of these changes include simplifying the card draft system, removing the recruit modifier die, returning envelopes from runners if someone else gets the recruit, and allowing you to add the full value of an envelope die to any of the next 6 months instead of needing to split them in half. Overall, this will be a much easier experience to get through that will acquire a lot less brain power, so you can more focus on socializing or teaching your kids to play. So now that that's out of the way, let's look to the complete opposite end of the spectrum. The Cutthroat rule set, designed to test your skills, your patience, and the strength of your friendships. Instead of a whole new rulebook, the Cutthroat rules appear as suggested changes to the standard game to make it harder, taking the form of little blurbs dotted about. Some of the suggested changes include, when picking dice to gain envelopes, change to a draft style where each selection means the other players cannot use that die. Instead of trading 3 envelopes and 1 booster buck for 1 different colored envelope, you must now trade 3 envelopes and 2 stars. You know, the stuff you need to win the game. And my personal favorite, removing the free movement for the early months altogether, forcing you to pay for every time you move your bus. Yeah, you're gonna end up with a lot of hometown recruits because those are the only people you can afford to see. So with an extensive rule set, a unique theme, and some good components, this bad boy has a lot going for it. But all of that could pretty easily come crumbling down if it all falls apart once the game starts. So let's take a look into how the gameplay operates and see if it can keep up this rocket pace. The gameplay relies heavily on what strategy you choose to use and how well you can adapt to changing circumstances throughout your recruiting adventure. Most of your actions are going to revolve around getting as many stars as possible, which will mostly come down to your card playing and your recruiting. Navigating the chance factors of the game is also key, as any well-laid plan you might concoct will need a couple backups in case the dice don't roll your way or another player snipes a vital recruit. Since every game will vary based on how you choose to play it, let's go over 2 of the most common play styles the game anticipates players to go for, the long-term lingerer and the short-term screecher. For a long-term playstyle, you'll be looking to take the full value of the envelope dice so that you'll be able to make a ton of moves in the later months. As you'll be poor for most of the early game, you'll want to take cards knowing that they won't be activated for a while, and you'll need to make the most of your free movement and your runners to get those cheaper recruits. In the meantime, save all of your big plays until you get to the months where you are loaded. Then go on an absolute tirade of destruction, leaving the other players' plans in shambles. If you're more of a short-term screecher though, then you'll want to take the high-numbered dice at half value so that you can use them right away, and draft some cheap cards so you can start getting their effects off now. With your early cash flow, try to recruit anyone you can reach with your free movement and send the remaining cash through runners to set up your next turn. No matter which strategy you choose though, you'll need to be thinking ahead, as rolling along by the seat of your pants is a good way to get steamrolled by a program that has actually put some thought into who they're looking for. So with strategy aplenty and tons of different playstyles to choose from every game, the gameplay loop is likely to hold your attention and inspire you to come back and try a new game plan next time. But cool, it runs well. Yeah, so does your refrigerator. The most important thing about these games by far is our final category, as no matter how well put together your title might be, you're more likely to see me playing with a blender than a game that fails to be fun. The main draw from this title is how much thought goes into each of your plans and whether or not those plans are still going to work in 4 months. The start of the game will be moving quite slow, with honestly players being able to take their turns all at the same time with little to no issue. Once you hit June, however, everything changes. Players' plans will really start to intersect here, putting everyone at odds with each other as they try to compete for the limited pool of players. Needless to say, they'll be at each other's throats in no time. The slightest miscalculation from your opponent can seal their doom, and nothing is going to be more satisfying than stealing someone's 4-star linebacker one turn before they were finally able to snag him. However, this game is by no means easy, and requires a ton of thought and forward thinking that many people just might not want to go through the trouble of doing. As such, people who are looking to get engrossed into a game with the opportunity to outthink, outwit, and outstrategize their friends are likely going to have a good time with this one. If you're like me and your favorite part of College Football 25 is the recruiting, then you're probably the exact type of person this game was made for. For those that won't enjoy their time here though, I'm thinking those that sit down with a board game in order to relax. Less looking for something that is going to challenge their decision making and more just looking for a stress-free experience that'll give them a good time. There are easier rule sets in the game that will make the title more appealing to these groups, but these will still require some effort in order to learn. So if this just isn't your game, it's not your game. And that should round out everything that's contained in these envelopes. So with all of that covered, it is time to answer... What's this? Mr. President, there's been a 5th rulebook. Tucked away hidden in the back of the family rules is a hidden 5th rule set for a completely different playstyle. As if you either can't convince your friends to play or never had them in the first place, then you can still enjoy the game using the Solitaire rules. Yes, you are able to play EOC completely alone, whether that to be to practice for upcoming games or as a sort of challenge mode to test your skills. Because when playing Solitaire, you are going to be facing off in a recruiting bout against the most fierce competitor in these United States, Bubba. Bubba is quite literally a recruiting machine, being a bot that you operate which follows a specific set of rules. Bubba only plays as the team from the South, and in his bio it states that he lives by the motto, always be crutin', and that he does not believe in much else. Yep, you've got your work cut out for you. To make the game functional in a one-player state, some rules have needed alterations. For instance, there is no more draft pool as there's no one to draft against. Bubba doesn't believe in cards. You are the only player that uses the envelope dice because Bubba doesn't believe in chance. And free movement has been completely eliminated like in the cutthroat rules because I'm not sure that Bubba can move. Other than these changes, you will conduct your turn as normal, moving, recruiting, gambling, until you run out of things that you can do. Once that happens, buddy, you better brace yourself, because now, It's Bubba's turn. Once Bubba's turn starts, he gets up, does his early morning routine to get ready for the day, and immediately recruits the highest star athlete in the southern region. My man is a bona fide hypnotist. He got this job by walking up to the previous head coach and just talking him out of it. He's never coached a game in his life. These stars are immediately added to Bubba's score without rolling the recruit modifier die. Remember, Bubba doesn't believe in chance. And if he has already recruited every athlete in the whole of the southern United States, he just recruits someone from one of the border regions instead. You are never safe from being recruited by Bubba, it's just a matter of how long it will take him to get to you. Bubba will think of which positions he hasn't recruited and how scarce position recruits are when selecting his target. After which he'll stumble in, get them to verbally commit within minutes, then waddle away to reinforce his defense. The only advantage that players have is that Bubba won't recruit from any non-border regions that aren't the South. We tried to ask him about why he does this, but all he said was that it is out of principle, and then he wouldn't talk to us anymore. Needless to say, competing against Bubba in a recruiting battle requires you to be at the top of your game with little room for error, as the game explains that we should expect Bubba to earn at least 150 stars, with the possibility of him getting as many as 200 if he's having a pretty good day. You are going to have to make 1987 SMU look like a world's finest chocolate fundraiser. The man is a force of nature. But with our nightmares left behind us, I believe that that is the last thing that we have to investigate. So with all of the categories covered, we can finally answer the question that we posed way back at the start of the video: will this game help your coach become a better recruiter? The official ruling? About as much as Road to the White House will help you win an election. Better than doing nothing. This game is so cool. The theme is awesome, the board is awesome, the content is awesome. Every part of it screams that this was made by someone who really respected what they were adapting here. Not the illegal recruiting part, the college football feel of it. It also serves as a great reminder of how far things have come. Since athletes are now able to be paid for the services they provide, these under-the-table offerings have fallen to the wayside to make way for a much more transparent system, albeit one with plenty of kinks that still need working out. Hey, any system that makes Hoosier football not a complete joke gets a thumbs up from me. I really like this game. If you've got a crew that is able to sit down and appreciate a title like this, I'd love to hear what people think of it, especially since it's not as tricky to get a hold of as some of the older titles I cover, since they are still selling it on their website. I'll put that down in the description if you want to take a look at it, as well as the link to Game Market West if you want the opportunity to see some other indie games not featured anywhere else. I think that's all that we have time for tonight, so I'll leave my more athletic viewers in the South with a lesson that they had best learn good and quick. If the people in your town start whispering about a man named Bubba coming through, well, you might as well pack your bags, buddy, because he's got an offer for you. Signing off for Parcels of Pesos, I am KamSandwich. Thank you for watching and have a fantastic day. A special thank you to my suppliers, staff, and chefs over at the deli, as well as the media preservers helping me get these rare games ported for the public to enjoy. If you'd like to join the crew, you can take a look using the link in the description below.